stop complaining, will you?
Well, I paid to get in, and I'd like to see a good picture.
We did not pay to get in. We got in on a pass for nothing, and this ought to be good.
Well, yes, it ought to be good for nothing.
Horror and fantasy films proliferated in Mexico in the mid-1950s, when the country's cinema industry was experiencing tough times. Combining elements of Mexico's indigenous folklore with European Catholic tradition, these films have a very special flavor. Their style draws on old horror classics, but adds a distinct touch of the macabre.
Satan, Satan, Satan.
In the 1930s and 40s, Mexican movies were exported all over the Spanish-speaking world. Their mixture of music and high drama, combined with a touch of the exotic, made many of them top box office hits. Their success laid the foundations for a small but highly creative film industry.
Mexico City was the place where all the film studios were. All the actors and actresses worked in the studios, so actually you lived in the studios, and there was this sense of camaraderie. We had about 2,000, 3,000 movie theaters. The golden years really started in 1940, more or less, and ended in 53.
The film industry itself was beginning to go into a decline in terms of the number of audiences, the amount of money being spent on films. And so in the late 1950s and the 60s, you see many more films being made that are genre films, westerns, thrillers, comedies. The horror films come in that period as more popular entertainment for the working class, let's say.
Sensing a niche market, independent filmmakers began to supply this audience with the low-budget, lurid shockers that they craved. One of the most successful of these new producers was former actor Abel Salazar.
Abel Salazar was one of the most popular actors in the 40s in Mexico. He played always the debonair, dashing male figure. He based his character, he said this, in William Powell, the Thin Man. Exactly, you know, half serious, half jokingly.
Salazar was very aware of Hollywood, and specifically was aware of Universal Films horror movies in the 30s and 40s, and how successful they were, how they turned into franchises. He was a canny businessman, and I think that he probably had an idea that he would be able to start his own franchise, to do something that nobody had done in Mexico before.
The vampire, of course, is Dracula in one of its very different reincarnations throughout film history.
Basically, his concept was, yeah, let's make Dracula and set it in Mexico.
It's a masterpiece. I would even go as far as saying that it's an involuntary masterpiece.
She'll hunt uselessly, like other vampires. Thus we'll march through eternity. I brought this to you. I'll bring it to others as well, and all of us will exist in our black limbo, as it is written. We've been brought to a halt in the middle of this strange bridge that extends between the end of life and the beginning of death.
With this actor playing the vampire, Germán Robles, that in fact wanted to do classic theater. I know the man, and I know that he says, well, I had to do the vampire because I had to eat.
The Vampire was a big success. A large part of this was due to the excellent technicians that Salazar employed. Foremost among them was veteran director Fernando Méndez, who showed a real talent for the macabre.
El Vampiro was revived and revisited by my generation in the late 60s and early 70s. And it became a cult movie. And Mendes, of course, was seen retrospectively as this director with an enormous amount of talent that was sacrificed by the producers at the time.
Many of the directors working on horror movies in the 1950s had known better times during the boom years of the 30s and 40s. Their ambivalence to working on low-budget horror led some of them to subvert the genre by overloading their films with bizarre episodes and unbelievable special effects.
Chano Urrieta, who was a fairly well-known director, got his experience in Hollywood in the late 1920s. And he was a very sort of eccentric type of filmmaker. When he got to make a fantasy film or a film that had fantasy elements, then he really let it all loose, and he really allowed his idiosyncrasies to show on screen.
Chano was a very odd man, a strange man. I remember we used to meet with him in the Actors Guild, and he was raving against the producers.
Urrieta's revenge was to make films like The Witch's Mirror that mixed so many different genres it became almost a surrealist movie.
He said, "Look at me, I have to do these monster films that are obviously ridiculous."
El Barón del Terror, or The Brainiac, which is the English language title, is really an outrageous type of film. The monster itself is so outrageous. His head swells up like a balloon, and he has a long tongue that he uses to suck out people's brains. Almost no exterior shooting. The exteriors all are process shots. The comet that the monster comes back to Earth on and things, they're so obviously fake and artificial, and it's not because they couldn't do better, it's because that's the way that Urrieta liked to do things. They're artificial, and they're meant to be artificial.
Following the success of The Vampire, Abel Salazar spent the next 5 years producing a string of Gothic horror movies. His finest achievement was the 1961 release, known in English as The Curse of the Crying Woman.
La Maldición de la Llorona was actually the last horror film produced by Abel Salazar's company. And it seems almost like it was conceived to be his swan song for the genre, because there is a dream sequence which includes bits from his other films. and it's sort of a summing up of his producing career to that point.
Salazar sold his movies to an American businessman called K. Gordon Murray. They were dubbed into English and shown on American TV in the 1960s. Years later, that same TV audience rediscovered these films on video. Many of them were hailed as cult classics, although they had not been seen that way at the time.
No one took this film seriously, obviously. Now, retrospectively, they have many things that are very interesting. But it's only after an analysis of the film through a different perspective that you can see that. Films that took the worst and the best of Mexico's popular imagination.
Besides horror and fantasy films, the other big draw for Mexico's mass audience were movies featuring masked wrestlers. These came in both male and female varieties.
They didn't invent it for films. They didn't say, well, what can we do that's new? They already had a fairly long history of professional wrestling and masked professional wrestlers from the mid-1930s. And it became very popular in the 40s, but even more so in the early 1950s when they began to televise professional wrestling.
And the thing is the mask, you see. There's a fascination in Mexico for the mask.
There were many masked wrestlers, but the most popular was El Santo. His career spanned 5 decades and more than 50 films.
El Santo's career as a professional wrestler began in the early 1940s, and he became very popular, although, ironically, he was a bad guy wrestler, what is known as rudos.
Then he became the character of the comic book, very popular in Mexico. I used to read Santo when I was young.
In that comic book, he was a superhero, and he was a good guy. The first Mexican Santo films were made in the early 1960s, and almost all of them in the early years had some fantasy elements. At the same time, you have a parallel track of Mexican fantasy movies without wrestlers. I mean, El Vampiro, etc. And someone had the brilliant idea of putting the two of them together and really having a Santo film that was a horror film that happened to have Santo as the hero.
Every possible villain, every possible foe, right, is fought gallantly by Santo.
He fought zombies, he fought vampires, women vampires, mad scientists, etc.
Mexican fantasy films were originally aimed at a general audience. By the end of the 1960s, however, their appeal was waning. Producers decided to market the films at adults by adding something new to the formula: sex.
Santo in Dracula's Treasure was also made in what we like to call a sex version called El Vampiro y el Sexo. Alternate takes were made, and there are scenes where the vampire has recruited a big line of women to be women vampires, and in one scene he goes and bites them and they're all wearing black nightgowns, and another scene he bites them and they're all topless.
Sex failed to save the Mexican horror film. Soon it was reduced to a string of tired cliches. By the early 1970s, a new generation of filmmakers had emerged. Weaned on the classics of world cinema, they weren't interested in low-budget horror movies.
Everyone said, I want to make my film, the film that I want to do, the important film, the meaningful film.
What's that? I've never seen anything like them before. It's one more secret. One is identical to the other, just like an image in a mirror. Like you and me. Let's find more secrets.
Juan López Moctezuma, a theatre producer and radio broadcaster, was the only member of this new wave who had an interest in horror. He saw in the genre an opportunity to express radical and subversive views.
Juan López Moctezuma was a very talented culture man that had a very important program, radio program for about 20, 25 years called Jazz in Mexican culture. And he was completely in love with the vampire films. He came to them from a different point of view altogether.
Through his theatre work, López Moctezuma had come into contact with avant-garde artists like Jodorowsky.
Moctezuma was actually an associate of Jodorowsky. He was involved in theater and things like that.
Jodorowsky and Fernando Arrabal, they created something called the Panic Theater.
The aim of Panic Theatre was to create a whirlpool of emotion, to confront an audience with images that would break down the rigid structure of their perceptions. With Moctezuma producing and Jodorowsky directing, this principle was brought to the screen in the films Fando and Lis and El Topo. In 1971, Moctezuma applied the lessons he had learnt with Jodorowsky to his own directorial debut. Loosely based on a story by Edgar Allan Poe, the film was called The Mansion of Madness.
These films were made with professional actors and technicians, but they were made outside of the industry mainstream. They were independently financed. He could make these movies the way he wanted to make them.
You shall blend into each other. Then blend into me. Depart then, seducer, enemy of virtue.
The fact that he wasn't under the sort of journeyman pressure to work as a director for hire makes his movies very personal and idiosyncratic. They have a very distinctive mise-en-scène. Alucarda has an almost organic set design. It looks like it's not a building that was built, it looks like it was a building that grew and developed.
I mean, the government in those years, this is the 70s, early 70s, gave you money if you wanted to make a socially committed film. So if one came with a project such as Alucarda, it didn't fit. I mean, it didn't fit because it wasn't the socially prestigious project. It was not the box office success. It was in the middle.
Moctezuma's avant-garde movies were not big hits. By the end of the 1970s, the government had nationalized much of the film industry, and horror and fantasy were not high on their agenda. However, the taste for fantasy that had given rise to the golden age of Mexican horror movies was still there, just waiting for the right moment to re-emerge. Finally, in 2001, the son of the original El Santo put on his father's mask and returned to the big screen. In his new adventure, The Infraterrestrial, Santo battles his deadliest enemy to date. The film features all the action of the old Santo movies, but with digital special effects. It promises to be his most spectacular adventure ever. The legend of the mask lives on.
And now, intermission. Refreshment time.
Sure is great being at a drive-in watching Super Flick and eating all this great food.
This flick is making me hungry.
It makes me want to flick my bick.
We should have gone to the drive-in where we could eat and flick to our heart's content.
Well, what are we waiting for?
Well, come on then. I'm going to have a pizza and popcorn and ice cream.
And I'm gonna have a burger with fries and a soft drink. Yum, yum, yum. This was a great idea.
Hi, folks. I'm Rico.
Oh, Nacho.
He's Peppy.
See?
You can find us at the concession stand in the lobby.
Along with all sorts of other tasty goodies.
See?
Rico's Nachos, a refreshingly new and different snack discovery. Chock full of high-quality ingredients, crisp, fresh tortilla chips, covered with creamy aged cheddar cheese, topped off with zesty jalapeno pepper rings. Rico's Nachos, out of sight.
Remember, folks, we're the new star at the snack bar, Rico's Nachos, a new taste treat you can't beat.
See?
Rico's Nachos, on sale at the snack bar now.
Refreshing, ice-cold Coca-Cola with a bright, right taste and a special sparkle all its own. Enjoy a Coke at our snack stand right now.
Our tempting, tasty French fries go with everything. Come and get them. They are hot. They are delicious.
Who's next on your list to talk about MKR's Monster Kid Movie Club and Astronomy Club watch parties with, Tish?
Let's call the Count. He's always such a delight. Ah, good evening. So nice to see you both. Are you well? Well, all things considered, yes, we're doing fine. And yourself? Well, homeschooling the children of the night is a bit of a challenge. But at least the blood bank is still offering delivery services and curbside pickup. How are Wednesday and Pugsley?
Uncle Fester's taken over the teaching chores for us. They have quite the science project going on at the moment.
Well, if they need any anatomy instruction, I'd be happy to help.
We'll let you know when we see you on the Monster Kid Movie Club Twitch stream on Saturday.
Those watch parties are one of the highlights of my week. It is good to hear from you both. Stay well, my friends. You too, Vlad. This skit courtesy of We Belong Stuffed, cuddly classic horror film and TV creatures who want to follow you home. We Belong Stuffed is a division of Stuff with Character, where you'll find over 50 designs based on our favorite fandom friends, including Marvel and DC Comics, Star Wars, Star Trek, Disney, and Harry Potter. For more information or to place an order, visit facebook.com/stuffedwithcharacter or email stuffedwithcharacter@gmail.com.
On top of Chapultepec Heights, overlooking Mexico City, stands Chapultepec Castle, the official White House of Mexico and the home of the president. Built, decorated, and furnished by Maximilian, the last emperor of Mexico, and his consort Charlotte, the castle is filled with treasures of historic value and interest. From the castle balcony, one has a wonderful view of the city and the mountains. Here we see Sleeping Lady, 17,300 feet high, and Smoking Mountain, 17,800 feet high. The latter so called because of its volcanic origin. Sleeping Lady with its blanket of snow is so called because from a distance it has the appearance of a woman lying down sleeping. Often there are parades, both interesting and picturesque, impressive to visitors and a source of pride to all Mexicans. The cadets from the military academy, the West Point of Mexico, are the future army officers. The personal guard of the president is the Black Horse Troop. These horses and men are carefully selected and evenly matched, creating a fine appearance. The regular army, well equipped and properly drilled, show a confidence as to their ability and efficiency. The police department is one of the finest in the world. The men are carefully fixed and extensively trained, both physically and in duties each must perform. One can see the result of such training and feel the pride these men have in their responsibility. The same condition is true of the fire department. They may not look like firefighters, but don't let their snappy dress uniforms deceive you. Each man is an athlete of the highest type. And with the blowing of the siren, they are on their way with the finest modern equipment to face the hazards of fire and to save human lives and property. On the Plaza de la Constitución is the National Palace, containing the government offices, Senate chamber, and museum. Here hangs the Liberty Bell, first rung by the priest Hidalgo the night of September 16, 1810, calling the people to revolt for independence. It is rung now each anniversary at midnight by the president. The National Museum contains a wonderful collection of panels, the sacrificial stone, and treasures through which the early history of Aztec and Toltec races have been traced. The original Aztec stone calendar weighs over 20 tons, and its carving relates the history of world development during the early period. The government has built and equipped a number of schools throughout the country where young Mexico is taught up-to-date scientific agriculture and farming methods. The Bank of Mexico was founded by the government in 1925 and has done much to stabilize the finance of Mexico. The National Theater was started in 1900, and though not fully completed, has cost 20 million pesos to date. The downtown streets of Mexico City are narrow. Because of this, traffic is very heavy. Yet it is handled in the highest type manner. One seldom hears of a serious accident or death in the streets, because without question, vehicles and pedestrians obey the police direction. The controlling interest of the national railways is held by the government. However, the actual administration is under private direction. An excellent through service is operated from the Texas border to Mexico City. At least one member of each train crew speaks English, and the stranger is made comfortable and welcome. The Federal District is patterned after our District of Columbia. Its attractive parks, some of which are equipped with outdoor radios for the entertainment of the people,
are places of beauty where all are welcome to relax, rest, and enjoy the pleasures provided by official Mexico. This is the beautiful statue of Cuauhtémoc, the last Aztec emperor. His army was defeated by the Spaniards in 1521. Cuauhtémoc was captured, and as pictured on these brass plates, tortured to death in an attempt which failed to make him disclose the hiding place of the Aztec treasure. The Victory Monument is located in the heart of Mexico City and is dedicated to Mexican independence. This capital city, because of its elevation and protective mountain range, has the finest tropical climate in all Mexico. And with 1 million population, it is a most modern city, well laid out. From the air, we have a dandy view of the new stadium building of concrete and steel in horseshoe shape. The playground where grown-ups never seem to be too busy to stop and romp with the kiddies. The National Recreation Field planned by the government is often the scene of public events and fiestas. The bridle path in Chapultepec Park is a popular spot. Here Army officers in uniform and citizens in costume mounted on spirited horses may be seen taking their daily exercise. One of the most attractive things about this romantic country is that no matter where the location, even close to cosmopolitan Mexico City, a short auto ride will take you from the new world and present customs into an old world and primitive methods. Here, just outside of official Mexico, we see an important activity of the native Indians, Wash Day, which is every day. The method used is the same as recorded back in biblical days. The results, if compared to that of the automatic washing machine, so common in our homes, would amaze the American housewife. Contrary to natural belief, the pounding of the clothes on rocks does not damage them, and when laid out on the ground to be aired and sun-dried, they are as clean and white as driven snow. Water, one of the most important necessities of life, is secured from this picturesque stream, and in earthen jars which are made by the Indians, carried to the home. This seems to be mostly the duty of the lady of the house. Well, it is. These Indians are unusually friendly. With a tired and hungry stranger, they will not only share their bed and food, but will give their last bit of food, go hungry themselves, and sleep on the ground so that their guests may rest better. Surely this is a hospitality seldom extended anywhere else in the world. We would like to spend more time with these friendly people, but we must hurry along. The old monastery, built in 1606, a restful spot, symbolic of peace and quiet, which we pass on our way to other points beyond the Rio Grande.
I am the captain of the good ship Pleasure. Come join the crew in search of a treasure. The treasure has been sighted from the old crow's nest. Be prepared to find what you like best. There's candy for you of quality fine. In fact, an assortment that is so divine. The soda pop is cold, just name your brand. The ice cream is delicious and it's right at hand. If it's popcorn you want, well, take my cue. We have the very finest in the world for you. Just steer a course straight up the aisle. We'll have an intermission for a little while.
Over there.
Over where?
Over there.
Over here?
No, over there.
Over there.
The warehouse is in danger, the goodies we must save. All officers report at once, the situation's grave. Go get them, boys, for this thing. The culprits must be stopped. We'll make the scene with our siren, your soda pop is pop. Aha! The guilty ones are trapped, we've now performed our mission. But the climax isn't kept until we have an intermission.
Precious.
And the soda's delicious.
Try some today. We are the Intermission Quartet.
Some quartet.
We sell refreshments at the Met.
At the Met?
So if you should want to get delicious
ice cream,
soft drink, popcorn,
candy. Candy, I like candy. It tastes just dandy and comes in handy when I fight the bull.
The popcorn's puffy, so crisp and fluffy. We all eat popcorn until we're full. Oh, how I love the soft drinks here. They taste as good as the lager beer.
And now our operetta ends. We'll have an intermission, friends.
It's refreshment time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Candy is dandy at the drive-in theater. Smooth, rich chocolate, chewy caramels, or creamy nougats. Whatever your favorite is, you'll find it here at the Refreshment Center. Come on in and take your pick. Treat yourself to some delicious candy. Hey, Mom. Yes, you. Why fuss and fret about dinner? Why not have it right here? Yes, this drive-in offers everyone in the family a real picnic treat for dinner. We've got delicious sandwiches with all the trimmings and your other dinner favorites, plus whatever you want to drink, hot or cold. Come early before the show starts, or eat while you're being entertained, or at intermission time. So why fuss? Give your family a tasty dinner at this drive-in.
Hi, you hungry? Looking for a tempting treat? Hold on till I absorb some heat. Some added tang might please you too. I'll slide into an oven-fresh bun, and I'm ready for your eating fun.
Why don't you try a juicy good hot dog? Delicious.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The management of this drive-in theater is happy to announce you can enjoy your favorite form of movie entertainment regardless of rain. No longer will it be necessary to let rain spoil your fun. Now you can keep your windshield clear and dry with a drizzle guard. Simply attach it to your windshield, and in a jiffy you're enjoying the movie without constantly running your windshield wipers. A drizzle guard will save you gasoline and wear and tear on your batteries. After the show is over, all you do is take off your drizzle guard, roll it up, and it's ready to be used again, just like an umbrella. So next time it rains, don't sizzle in a drizzle. Get yourself a drizzle guard and enjoy the show. Drizzle guards are on sale now at the concession center.
Jim Rex? What's Jim Rex? Would you believe a movie audience guide presented as a public service by this theater's management to help you select your motion picture entertainment? Well, that's what it is. And we urge you to learn these rating symbols and use them as a guide for you and your family. G means suggested for general audiences, all ages. M, suggested for mature audiences, parental discretion advised. R, restricted, persons under 16 not admitted unless accompanied by parent or adult guardian. X, persons under 16 will not be admitted. This seal in advertising indicates that the film was approved under the Motion Picture Code of Self-Regulation.
Yes, sir. May I help you?
I'd like 2 of those, please.
Hot dogs? Yes, sir.
And 3 of those. And 1 of those. And 5 bars of these. And a cup of that nice hot liquid.
Coffee. Coming right up.
Oh, and 2 bags of those peculiar white coffee material.
You mean our crunchy popcorn? Shall I wrap that for you, sir?
Oh, that's all right. My saucer's just outside.
They come from miles to enjoy our intermission.
Wait till you see what I get from the refreshment counter. Oh boy, popcorn and candy bars and ice cream and oh boy, sparkling ice cold Coca-Cola. Oh boy, that tastes good. Have you been to the refreshment counter?
Remember, your favorite snack will taste especially good with world-famous ice-cold Coca-Cola.
Drive away your worries and cares at this drive-in theater, where you will see the finest motion pictures of all time, soon to be released. Drama, comedy, adventure, excitement, something for everyone.
And now, on with the show.
Mexican masked wrestler movies, an introduction. Flipping through the channels late at night, you might have come across one of these films on the Spanish language channels. I don't get it. Why does he wear a mask? And why does he fight villains? Whoa. I'm not here to explain lucha libre to you. While Mexican wrestling intersects with these films, that is another subject entirely. This is the world of the luchador films of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Starring many different wrestlers, and in a diverse range of genres, these films all had something in common. Masked wrestlers having thrilling adventures with an overriding sense of fun. The entire genre was once very popular with Mexican audiences. There was something for everyone. Not only could you see lucha libre, but also action, science fiction, crime scene investigation, comedy,
¿Qué tal, Santo? ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo le va? ¿Qué tal?
musical numbers, romance,
No lo hagas. Si en lugar de estar entrenando sigo aquí contigo, lo más probable es que lo pierda. Por eso escogí esta playa desierta.
and monsters. Lots and lots of monsters.
Pero tú sí lo estarás, Marta. O soy capaz de matarte. No lo dudes. Oye mi música, Marta. En ella descubrirás mi verdadera alma.
Y el virrey de la Garza no ha cumplido el pacto que hizo conmigo.
El Santo is without a doubt the most famous masked wrestler of all. Known as the Silver Masked Man in the wrestling ring, El Santo climbed to further fame in his own comic book series and as a film star. El Santo holds a status in Mexican culture that would equate to Superman or Doctor Who with English-speaking audiences. He's a national hero, loved and recognized by all. Starring in around 50 films, El Santo hit every genre possible, including horror flicks, westerns, science fiction spy adventures, only 4 of El Santo's films were translated into English. Santo contra las mujeres vampiro, or Santo versus the Vampire Women, is one of his best-known films, even if he is renamed Samson for English-speaking audiences. The other 3 films translated into English were El Santo in the Wax Museum, El Santo vs. Dr. Death, and one of El Santo's first movies, Santo vs. the Zombies, or Invasion of the Zombies. Blue Demon was also a star of comics and films. A little rougher around the edges, Blue Demon had his share of adventures as well, but starring in only about half the number of films that El Santo did.
¿Una foto para qué?
Mil Máscaras was the man of 1,000 masks. His colorful costumes and frequent mask changes made him one of the most flamboyant luchador film stars. Quite the showman, Mil was always entertaining. El Santo, Blue Demon, and Mil Máscaras, the big 3. Can you imagine if they all made a film together? Well, you don't have to imagine it, because they did. On several occasions, in fact. El Santo and Blue Demon teamed up in several films as well. And these may have been the main 3 luchador film stars, but there were many others. Even before El Santo and the others, there were a few luchador film movies starring characters like Neutron and Hurricane Ramirez. Then there were some oddities. The Demons of the Ring, Angel and Satan, starred in 2 films.
Por un momento me pareció como que se iba a desmayar.
No sería la primera vez contigo. Mira que estuviste rudo con él.
¿Qué te extraña? ¿Acaso no soy siempre así?
Superzon, Who Could Fly, and Tinieblas, The Darkness, also had several films. Then there were the wrestling women, Las Luchadoras. Obviously, having pretty women was a staple of many Mexican wrestler movies, but these movies featured beautiful ladies in the spotlight, and they kicked ass. Lorena Velázquez from Santo vs. the Vampire Women takes her turn being on the side of justice. However, fans of the British series The Avengers may find the plot of the wrestling women versus the robot assassin hauntingly familiar. Let's take a look at the similarities. First, there's the robot assassin itself, who is very similar to the Avengers' foe, the Cybernauts. Here, Peter Cushing programs the Cybernaut to assassinate its target using strange identification cards with biometric data on them. In this scene from the Wrestling Women movie, we see very similar cards being used to program the very similar looking robot. Compare with the Avengers, the Wrestling Women. These 2 characters are clearly Mexico's answer to Emma Peel and John Steed. Even the costume and hair seemed intended to evoke an image of Emma Peel. While sometimes derivative of other films and genres, these Mexican films are hugely entertaining in their own right. This little introduction barely scratched the surface, and I hope you do some investigating of your own. Adios! Hey, wait, aren't I that kid from the beginning of the documentary? No, I'm really confused. Blue Demon! Ah!
Surge en la pantalla una nueva y sensacional figura. La mujer murciélago. Una mujer indomable, con un corazón de acero y un cuerpo escultural. La mujer murciélago, campeona mundial de lucha libre, se enfrenta a muerte contra la maldad y el crimen personificada en una banda de asesinos. La mujer murciélago, un mundo de aventuras. Una obra maestra de horror y misterio. El malvado ingenio de un científico asesino realiza experimentos prohibidos para esclavizar a los humanos.
¿Está todo preparado, Igor?
Sí, maestro.
Como verá, capitán, estamos listos para recibir dignamente a su salvadora.
¡Quieta! ¡Prepárate, Igor! ¡Prepárate! Vas a presenciar lo más grandioso del siglo. ¿Te das cuenta, Igor? Estamos a un paso de la gloria. De las aguas del mar hace más de 400 millones de años emanó el principio de la raza humana al surgir a la vida el primer vertebrado, el pez.
Del fondo del mar surge el diabólico monstruo que asesina impulsado por un cerebro criminal. La mujer murciélago. Suspenso. Acción. Crimen. La mujer murciélago. Escenas submarinas de escalofriante realismo como nunca antes se habían filmado. La mujer murciélago. Una película electrizante. Un arrasador torrente de escenas filmadas en Acapulco y Cozumel, con Armando Silvestre, Roberto Cañedo, Héctor Godoy, Grox Alvarado, David Silva, Jorge Mondragón y Maura Monti como la mujer murciélago, dirigida por René Cardona para Cinematográfica Calderón, Sociedad Anónima.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.